I didn't even touch the food. That was the part they'd lie about later, that I reached for her plate. But I didn't. I just passed the salt. That's all I did. The plate wasn't even near me. It was a Sunday dinner, the kind where the table was too long and the chairs were too stiff, the kind my mom pretended was about keeping traditions, but really it was about control. She liked having everyone lined up, watching her serve things like she was a queen, giving scraps to her subjects. I sat on the far end, always the far end, next to the back door by the drafty window, far enough from the family, close enough to the trash can. Please subscribe to our channel, Nad. Tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. My sister Lena was across from me. Her seat, as usual, was directly next to Mom, the good daughter seat. She had her own little placemat, her own glass with gold trim, her own plate piled higher than anyone else's. She was 22. I was 24. But Lena still acted like she was the chosen one, the princess, the heir to nothing, but crowned anyway. She didn't cook anything, didn't clean, didn't set the table, just walked in late, sat down, and Mom would scoop out the best cuts of meat onto her plate while saying, "You need to eat more, honey. You work so hard." Hard? Lena hadn't held a job longer than 4 months. Meanwhile, I worked double shifts at a grocery store just to afford my side of the rent in the house Mom technically owned. Caleb, my son, wasn't even allowed at the table that night. He eats too loud, my dad had said last time. So he stayed upstairs with a bowl of plain noodles and a blanket. I reached for the salt. That was it. It was near Lena's side of the table, next to her plate. I leaned over slowly, quietly, and she suddenly hissed, "Don't touch my f—" Before I could even register what was happening, she stabbed the fork straight into my shoulder. Not a poke, not a jab. A full stab. Metal teeth punctured through the fabric of my shirt, bit into my skin. I screamed, short, sharp, more from shock than pain. The fork stuck for a second, then fell to the floor with a clatter. Blood started seeping through the cotton. I stood up, chair flying back. My hands went to my shoulder. I stared at Lena, wide-eyed. She just sat there, calm, like she'd swatted a fly. "She reached for my food," she said. My mom stood slowly, not rushing to me, not checking the blood. She looked down at the fork, then at me, then said, "You shouldn't even be eating with family. You weren't invited." I blinked. "You told me dinner was at 7, I stammered. Mom shrugged. "I said that out of politeness. We didn't mean you, or your situation." She meant Caleb. She always called him your situation. I looked to my dad. He was still chewing, didn't even pause to look up. And Lena?" She started eating again. No apology, no flinch, just stuck another fork in her food like nothing happened. I stumbled back a step, pressing harder on my shoulder. Blood had soaked through now. I felt dizzy, but not from the injury, from the humiliation, from the slap of it all. I'd taken the bus to work at 4 a.m. that morning, stocked shelves for 9 hours, walked home in the cold, tucked Caleb into bed early, then came down here, hoping maybe just once I'd be treated like a person. And I got a fork in the shoulder for asking for salt. "Get out of the dining room," Mom said sharply. "You're dripping." I didn't move. "I said out," she hissed. "Take your mess upstairs. You can eat after we're done if there's anything left." No one looked up. No one stood up. No one defended me. I walked to the sink, grabbed a paper towel, pressed it into my shoulder. My fingers were trembling. My chest felt like it was made of glass. As I reached the stairs, I heard Lena laugh. "I guess that's what happens when you act like a dog." And then Mom's voice, clear, sharp. "Don't say that." I stopped walking. A beat of silence. Then Mom added almost sweetly, "Dogs know their place. She doesn't." That was it. That was the moment. Not the fork. Not the blood. Not the stairs. But that sentence, casual, cruel, final. That's when something inside me cracked. No more pretending. No more hoping. I wasn't part of this family. I never had been. I was the unwanted background noise they kept around for guilt and cleaning. but I wasn't going to be their ghost anymore. I was going to become their haunting. The blood washed off faster than I thought. It looked worse than it was, barely deep enough for stitches, but enough to leave a jagged red bruise, the kind you feel even when you're not touching it, the kind that reminds you you're not wanted, not safe, not anything but tolerated. Caleb opened the door when I knocked. His eyes went wide. "Mom?" He looked down at the towel pressed to my shoulder. "Did you fall?" "No, baby," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Just a scratch." He stepped aside and pointed to the bed. "I saved you the noodles." I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. I sat on the edge of the mattress, still shaking, still trying to understand what just happened downstairs. My family had watched me bleed, and then kept eating. I didn't eat the noodles. I watched Caleb draw pictures. I brushed his hair with my fingers while he told me about a dream he had where he was flying above a city of jelly beans. I smiled. I nodded. And inside, I was somewhere else entirely. Because I knew what came next. They'd pretend it never happened. That was the family specialty. Rewrite the moment, twist it. She made a scene. She was aggressive. She tried to ruin dinner. I'd be blamed again for existing. And Lena? She'd probably be praised for keeping her cool. So I stayed quiet that night. Didn't come downstairs, didn't text anyone. Just tucked Caleb in beside me, locked the door, and listened through the floorboards to the sound of clinking dishes and laughter like nothing had happened. The next morning, Mom left a plate at the bottom of the stairs. A single boiled egg, no salt. Like a message. Like a leash. I kicked it down the hallway. At work that week, I started keeping a notebook in my locker. Not a diary. I didn't need another outlet. I needed a blueprint, a plan, something beyond the pain, because I wasn't just angry. I was focused. I started writing down every detail I remembered about Lena, about Mom, about things they'd said, things I'd let go. I listed people they lied to, stories they told that never lined up, names, dates, statements. It wasn't about exposing them, not yet. It was about pattern. And then something strange happened. Miss Clay, my manager at the store, called me into the office. "I got a call from someone," she said carefully. "They said you stole a bottle of wine last week." My jaw dropped. "What?" "We checked the cameras. You didn't, obviously. But it came from someone named Lena." I blinked. My mouth was dry. "She said she was your sister," Miss Clay added, then lowered her voice. "Look, I'm not saying you need to do anything about it. Just watch your back." I nodded, heart pounding. They weren't satisfied with stabbing me. They wanted me erased. And if I didn't act now, they'd just keep finding new ways to make me invisible. That night, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called my Aunt Carla. She hadn't spoken to my mother in years. She lived 2 states away, but she answered on the first ring. "Anna?" she said, surprised. I told her everything. Fork, words, Caleb, everything. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she didn't offer pity. She said, "I always knew your mom had a darkness, but I didn't know it spread like this." She paused, then, "I want to help." I didn't cry, but I felt it. That unfamiliar, fragile thing crawling back into my chest, the thought that someone might actually be on my side. Carla invited us to visit. "Just a few days," she said. "Clear your head." I said yes, not to escape, but to breathe, to get Caleb somewhere warm, somewhere safe. But before I left, I did one more thing. I took a photo of my shoulder. The bruise was still there, angry, red, shaped like the ghost of a fork. Then I printed it, folded it inside an envelope. And on the front, I wrote, "Every scar has a story. This one's yours." I left it on Mom's pillow. No return address, no explanation. And I left. I didn't tell them where I was going, because I wasn't just walking away. I was walking toward something. Something they wouldn't see coming. Carla's house was warm in a way that had nothing to do with the thermostat. She had soft throw blankets, mismatched mugs, and a photo of her daughter's high school graduation on the fridge framed in glitter glue. She made pancakes at 10 p.m. because Caleb said he was a little bit hungry but not dinner hungry. She bought me socks because she said the ones I had looked like they'd been in a war. She gave me space, but she also gave me a mirror. Not the kind you hang, the kind that shows you who you've been pretending not to be. The part of you that's still alive under all the bruises and silence. 3 days in, she asked me, "Do you want to go back?" And without thinking, I said, "No." That was the first honest answer I'd said in years. But not going back wasn't enough. Because Lena would keep lying. Mom would keep smiling at neighbors like she wasn't the woman who said I shouldn't even be eating with family. And Caleb would grow up thinking this was normal, that moms could be monsters and still be called grandma. I wanted them to feel the same pain they gave me, not physically, but deeply. The kind that whispers in your sleep and makes your reflection hard to look at. So I built something. Not a public post, not a viral video, not some messy exposure. I built an invitation. It looked like a wedding invite. Same font, same gold foil, same envelope design. Inside it said, "If you are invited to witness the reading of a legacy. Dress accordingly. Silence is mandatory. Attendance is required for those who forgot who they erased. No name, no sender." I mailed it to one person, Lena. I knew she wouldn't ignore it. 2 weeks later, she showed up to the address printed on the back, a rented hall Carla helped me book under her name. Nothing fancy, just a clean space with chairs and silence. Lena walked in alone. She wore a white blouse like it was some kind of power move. Mom followed behind, and then Dad. They all came. Even after everything, because they couldn't resist an event they weren't in control of. When they entered, there was one thing at the front, a single wooden table. On it, 3 things. 1, the framed photo of my bruised shoulder, a high-res print, perfectly lit. 2, the transcript of every text and voicemail Lena had sent to my job. 3, a tape recorder playing one voice message over and over. "You shouldn't even be eating with family." Their own voices, their own sentences, no edits. The lights dimmed. A screen flickered on behind the table. And then it played, a short film. Not dramatic, not sensational. Just my story, narrated quietly, spoken by a woman off-screen. No names used, no faces shown. Just the details. The truth, word for word. Every insult, every bruised birthday, every erased photo, every door slammed, every time they called Caleb your situation. At the end, the screen went black. A single sentence faded in. She left the table. Now she's building her own. I stepped out from the side door, holding Caleb's hand. They didn't speak. They couldn't. Lena's face had gone paper white. Mom reached for her purse like she was ready to run. But I didn't stop them. I didn't need to. I handed each of them an envelope. Inside, a photo of an empty chair. Not just any chair, the one from the dinner table they used to gather at every Sunday. I'd taken it before I left. Because it was mine. They never gave me a seat, so I took it with me. And that was the point. I wasn't there to explain. I was there to reclaim. They left, humiliated, silent, splintered. Carla sat in the back row and smiled. Caleb squeezed my hand and whispered, "Was that our family?" I knelt down, kissed his forehead, and said, "No, baby. We're starting one now. Please subscribe to our channel now. Tell us in comments from where are you watching this video?